Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you today. Welcome to Zowe Conformance High Reliability Extensions for Mainframe Tools Guaranteed. I'm Sakach, Scrum Master for the Zowe Onboarding Squad, and I will lead you through this session. Whether you're familiar with Zowe or new to Zowe, whether you're a Zowe extender or a Zowe consumer, if you are interested in understanding how the Zowe community ensures that Zowe extensions, whether they're written by individuals or vendors, are guaranteed to function as expected, you will want to understand the Zowe Conformance Program. So we'll start with a quick summary of Zowe, the industry's drive towards open source, the Zowe landscape, and what we mean when we reference Zowe extensions. Then we'll review the Conformance Program, what it is, why it is necessary, and the value it offers from the perspective of both extenders and consumers. And finally, we'll explain the meaning behind a Zowe Conformant badge, why you should ensure that if you are an extender, you will want to earn the latest badge. And if you are a consumer, you will want to ensure that your Zowe app has earned its Zowe Conformance badge. So what's happening with the technology industry and open source? Well, if we take a market view, we see all sorts of evidence of open source in enterprises. How many of you are seeing tools like Git, Jenkins, and Visual Studio Code within your organization? I can tell you're nodding yes. These are all open source tools, and you're not alone, by the way. They're everywhere. In fact, according to a 2016 analyst report, 95% of organizations leverage non-trivial open source software within their mission-critical IT workloads, whether they know it or not. But despite the use, the increase we see within organizations, and the inherent quality associated with open source, until recently, Mainframe did not participate in this trend to leverage open source. And when you consider these stats on the use and the associated quality, they certainly support why Mainframe should. Mainframe did not participate, that is, until Zowe. For the sake of everyone in this session, let me quickly review. Zowe was introduced in August of 2018 at the Share Conference in St. Louis. Zowe is a Linux Foundation open mainframe project. Zowe is the first ever mainframe open source initiative. Leveraging the power of the community with the collaborative expertise of key platform ISVs, Zowe introduced a modern interface to mainframe, allowing enterprises to manage, leverage, and interact with mainframes like any other platform. The three introductory components of Zowe, circled here on the left, include the command line interface, the API mediation layer, and the application framework, or Web UI. The full landscape in the upper right demonstrates how the ecosystem has been expanding with the introduction of the Zowe Explorer, and in addition to two incubator project components, namely the Zowe mobile app and the Zowe client SDK. Ultimately, the community will extend the Zowe Conformance Program to include these components, but at this time, the program covers extensions for service APIs, for the API mediation layer, and, I want to circle those, plugins for both the CLI and the app framework. Let's take a closer look at two of these components. I'll pick the CLI and the API mediation layer. And I want to do this to help you all to gain an understanding of what we mean by extensions. And sometimes during this presentation, I'll probably refer to them as plugins. So I want to help you to understand what we mean by the extensions and the relationships that they have to conformance. At a high level, Zowe is foundationally services-oriented. The Zowe CLI and API mediation layer are, again, core Zowe components, and these two help enable off-platform access to mainframe services. At the risk of oversimplifying its tremendous value as a service layer, The mediation layer also serves as a catalog housing mainframe services in the form of APIs. The CLI is client-based technology that simplifies the mainframe API service calls. It essentially makes remote or off-platform mainframe access look and feel like any other platform access. Platforms that are very familiar to enterprise architects, as well as mobile and cloud developers. All of these folks are capable and comfortable working in a command line. So you can kind of start to see that leveraging Zowe enables that open first approach. Users can add mainframe to the huge volume of tools that are already downloaded to their workstation, whether it's for modernizing mainframe access or enabling mainframe DevOps. It empowers teams to decide how best to meet the needs of the business, leveraging tools they know and leveraging tools they use on their desktop in a manner in which they are proficient. But this is just part of the equation. In addition to being able to use the multitude of available open source technologies, Zowe's command line interface offers tremendous flexibility with on-mainframe product integrations. For example, mainframe teams can now use CI/CD pipeline orchestration tools like Jenkins or testing frameworks like Jest. And they can combine them with traditional mainframe solutions like CA Endeavor and mainframe databases like IBM's DB2 for ZOS. This is easily achieved through Zowe's extensibility. For the CLI component of Zowe, as shown on the prior slide, these extensions or this extensibility manifests itself in the form of plugins. Here's how it works. The CLI and plugins run locally on your machine, and they communicate to the mainframe through ZOSMF services or the product APIs. Product APIs are cataloged in the API mediation layer. All that's left for you to do is to build the scripts that invoke your mainframe product of choice in the form of the Zowe CLI commands, and then execute them along with the commands required for your desktop tool of choice. As an example, you could execute a Zowe CLI Endeavor move command from a Jenkins pipeline, essentially allowing Jenkins to control your mainframe delivery process in the same manner that it orchestrates your mobile, cloud, or distributed delivery process. Two final points before we dive into conformance. First, traditionally, these tools shown in the box on the left, and any desktop tool for that matter, have been applicable only to mobile, cloud, and distributed environments. Zowe makes them applicable for mainframe. And second, how will you know whether or not a mainframe product has a Zowe plugin? And if it has one, how do you know whether or not it's compatible with a given Zowe release? I guess that was more like 1 point and 2 questions. Sorry about that. But the answers can be found on the conformance pages at zowe.org. Let me describe the program, and then I'll guide you through those answers. We'll start with the simple question: what is conformance? As a consumer of any Zowe component, you may be interested in taking advantage of product plugins. When I was describing the off-host enablement Zowe provides, we talked about the CA Endeavor Zowe CLI plugin and the IBM DB2 for ZOS CLI plugin. It's important that you understand, unless they are explicitly included as part of core Zowe, and I will show you how you can tell. These plugins are not developed by the Zowe community. They are developed and delivered by an extender. In this case, Broadcom developed the Endeavor plugin, while the Zowe community developed the DB2 plugin. How then, as a consumer, can you be assured that the extension is compatible with and similar to, that is, has a similar look and feel from a UX perspective? How can you be assured that the plugin and extensions are compatible with core Zowe? That's where the Zowe Conformance Program comes in. It was developed by the Zowe community as a means to ensure that each plugin and extension associated with a given Zowe component has met a minimum set of requirements that enable them to deliver common functionality, in addition to ensure interoperability and offer a common user experience. Essentially, this program was designed to ensure both providers and consumers of Zowe a high level of confidence with extensions. Let's take a look at both perspectives. As a provider of a Zowe conformant application, the conformance program ensures my application will behave as designed and as I intended in the Zowe ecosystem, helps me to maximize the value of my application, helps to ensure that other applications will not break mine, and mine won't break any others, allows my product the ability to partner with and participate in the Zowe ecosystem, allows me to market my product extension. Sometimes we refer to these as Zowe apps, using the Zowe brand. As a consumer of a Zowe conformant application, the conformance program allows me to leverage a common infrastructure stack across multiple vendor applications, provides me with operational confidence through transparency. That is, conformant apps clearly indicate which Zowe releases they're certified with, allows me to quickly understand which extensions leverage the latest and greatest Zowe features, ensures that my experience as a user is consistent across extensions and plugins, and offers the collective quality assurance of the community, meaning all conformant applications have been vetted by the community. How does the conformance program help to ensure all of the points we just reviewed for both providers and the consumers? Well, when a Zowe extender applies for conformance, they need to ensure their extension meets all of the required test criteria entries for the particular component they are extending. Each component has their own set of criteria. The criteria is determined by each of the Zowe squads currently supporting the respective components. So for example, the Zowe CLI squad submitted the list of Zowe CLI test criteria, and they're also responsible for maintaining it. A sample of this Zowe CLI test criteria is located on the right of this chart. The Zowe onboarding squad is responsible for vetting the criteria and any changes with existing extenders to ensure that the entries are clear. It's important to understand that the criteria is associated with specific Zowe releases and that the required entries will not change throughout the active and maintenance phases of a long-term support release. This helps both providers and consumers of conformant apps to understand that their earned badge is applicable for the life of the LTS release. Let's dig into this a little bit more. I want to make sure it's clear for all of you. So this diagram depicts the Zowe release timeline. In this timeline, well, let's say as of September 2020, which is where we're at today, Zowe is currently in the active LTS or long-term support phase of the V1 LTS release. At a point in the future, sometime in the first half of calendar year 2021, Zowe V1 LTS will transition to a maintenance phase. During these two phases, I'm highlighting it there with a red box. During these two phases of the V1 LTS release, the Zowe Conformance V1 test criteria will be applicable. This means that any extension that has earned a Zowe V1 badge will be certified with the V1 LTS releases of Zowe. And those releases start at 1.9 and continue up until the most current release. V1 LTS is still in the active phase. Now, when V1 LTS goes into the maintenance phase, V2 LTS will transition from current to active LTS. When this happens, again, highlighting with the red box, a new V2 conformance badge will be available and required. At this point, extenders will need to ensure that their apps meet any new test criteria that was introduced with the V2 LTS release. In other words, they need to earn the V2 badge. Note there is no conformance assigned to the current LTS phase. That's the phase that's colored in green. And this is by design. Current represents a phase that may introduce features that cause errors known as breaking changes. If you're interested in more details on the Zowe LTS release, please visit zowe.org/download. You will find this diagram and more details at the bottom of this page. So go ahead and page down once you get to the zowe.org/download. Okay, so let's re-ask those questions we reviewed a short while ago. The first, how will you know if your mainframe product has a Zowe plugin? And second, how can you be sure it's compatible with a specific release? The answers lie with the Zowe Conformance Badge. At this time, I'd love to ask you all to take a moment and open up your browser and type in zowe.org. Go ahead and hit enter. Page down until you see the Zowe Conformance Program banner. It's the banner that I show on this chart. Go ahead and click on that Learn More button. Page down until you see the words, the following products have earned Zowe Conformance status. And remember, the Zowe V1 badge confirms the extension or plugin is conformant with the Zowe V1 LTS release. When you page down, you will be presented with a list of Zowe V1 conformant apps or extensions, and they'll be in the form of cards, categorized by the component, which means you'll see a list of Zowe API mediation layer, conformant APIs, a list of Zowe app framework, conformant plugins, and a list of Zowe CLI conformant plugins. Notice there are conformant apps cards from Phoenix Software, IBM, Rocket, and Broadcom. But there are also cards that have the Zowe logo. What do they represent? Well, earlier I mentioned the Zowe extensions could be delivered as part of Zowe Core, or they could be delivered by extenders. The cards with the Zowe logos represent extensions that are included with Core Zowe. The cards with the other logos are not delivered as part of Zowe Core. To determine how the non-core extensions are delivered, click on the card to view the details. The website should provide you with those details. And as an FYI, I framed a list of V1 conformant apps from several weeks ago, and this is already out of date. The web page you are viewing now is the most accurate reference for all of the Zowe conformant apps. One more point before I wrap this up. Is this the exhaustive list of all Zowe extensions? Probably not. I say that because it is absolutely possible that extensions and plugins exist for any of the Zowe extensible components, and they may not be conformant. The question you need to ask yourself as a consumer of any of the apps, are you willing to use an extension that has not earned conformance? I hope this session has helped you to decide how to answer that question. And finally, at Broadcom, we see ourselves as your partner in your mainframe DevOps and modernization journey. We absolutely realize the journey is challenging and no two are alike. And we want you to know that we'll work with you to peel back the layers. To demonstrate our commitment to our partnership and to your success, we're offering specific workshops, services, and POC options to our customers free of charge. We hope you take us up on any or all of these offerings. Select what works best for you in any order. Our DevOps Center of Excellence is ready to make your DevOps journey a success. We are here to help. I encourage you to reach out to your Broadcom rep today. Hey, thanks again for joining me today. I really look forward to seeing all of you in the Zowe community.